So people have said that in this podcast they like the dynamic between the two of us, because I'm very French and enthusiastic, and you're the more pessimistic, melancholic British guy. So
I know,
it's nice.
Well, maybe I should try to be more upbeat. Hey man,
Yeah,
how you doing today, yo?
Yeah.
I'm fantastic.
That wouldn't work. If you're also like that, it wouldn't work.
Oh well, hopefully people like that. Anyway, today we are talking to Jake, which makes things a bit more confusing.
Oh yeah,
because there's two Jakes.
I hope he has a different voice than yours.
I'm sure he will.
See. Yeah, another Jake. That particularly what was interesting to us is that he was the head of growth at Typeform a few years ago. And that is interesting because Typeform is one of the, talked about growth kind of product, B2B SaaS product of the last few years that, grew through interesting viral loops and other different tactics. I think, I don't know any businesses that don't use Typeform for their surveys.
Yeah. We use it literally every day.
Every day, everyone that I talk to uses Typeform. So I think it was a few years ago still. I think it's still interesting to go through his journey. Also discover what else he's doing, what else he's up to at the moment, things like that. But I think, talking about growth at Typeform, different channels, I think they did some interesting things, not only on the product, but also in SEO, bringing a lot of traffic through that, maybe a little bit of paid too. And I think one of the other things that could be interesting to hear from him is like navigating also, making decisions, growth decisions, getting budgets, buy-ins, things like that from a company that's growing really fast and where things are getting more and more difficult to get through. The bigger the teams, the more the layers, the harder it gets. So,
although to be honest, that's I put a post out yesterday about that, as you saw.
And I said I quit. That's my solution.
Yeah, exactly. What do you do when you can't get anything through? Quit. It's I've actually had, and I know you have as well, even before a team gets that big, even when you're in the first 5 employees, it can be really challenging to be in that growth position.
Yeah.
Because you've got your CEOs like charging ahead with their vision of the company, and that's all well and good, but they're not necessarily in the weeds of the numbers and things as much as you are, or talking to users as much as you are. And when you can see that we could just, fix these 10 things and it's going to increase our revenue by X because it's going to solve all these churn issues. But it's like, no, what we're going to do is we're going to pivot, or we're going to introduce this feature that our competitors done, or we're just going to rebuild everything from scratch because, we need an app, or, something like that. That's, it can be difficult to do that, and it can be pretty demotivating. And if you can't get your changes through, you end up thinking, why am I bothering here? And
and that is why, one of the reasons why a lot of great growth people end up working the fractional growth person, because it's a lot easier to be detached from the day-to-day and only come in for a short period of time, or a short amount of time in a week, or actually an actual project to get one thing done. Because when you do that, you don't get too much in the political aspect of the company and the egos and things like that. And I think that's why drive also maybe that and the money, because I think you make more money being a consultant, obviously. But I think that's one of the reasons. That's one of the reasons for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's just in general, if you can, honestly, if you come in as an outsider, your opinion is usually always valued more. I've a long time ago, I was working somewhere, and we're doing a lot of marketing stuff, and someone said, maybe we need to bring in like a marketing consultant. And I was like, okay, why? And they're like, I don't know, they might just have like some fresh ideas. It's like,
It's
Oh
like,
man, we've got like a 1,000 things on the backlog that we haven't implemented yet. So it's like,
yeah,
it goes back to the shortcut being the long cut. That Ed said the other day.
yeah, yeah,
There's just like, oh, but maybe there's something that we're not thinking about that will just suddenly get us to this stage we want
exactly.
to get to in one small change.
The shiny object
Yeah.
fallacy or
Mm-hmm.
effect also applies to people.
Yeah.
Like
Exactly.
after a time, when you work in marketing or growth in a company, I think the most impact you can make, and that's also why the fractional works really well, is in the first 6 months, maybe your first year, if it's a bit slow. After that, the CEO or the person above you, I think there's just a natural tendency to think that the person you've used up the person's like ideas or brain power, and then there's a natural, maybe subconscious decline in the amount of yeses you can get from that person. Everything gets a little bit more and more challenging for some reason, whereas when you started, anything you would say would be gospel. It'd be like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah. Exactly.
whatever you propose at the beginning to test, there wouldn't be any questioning. And that's why working as an advisor or a consultant works really well, because you always stay on that phase, and you always
Yeah.
feel it always feels great, because you feel like you've got the automatic buy-in, at least in that project that you're leading. After a while,
Exactly.
yeah, it just like erodes. Say, and I don't know if it's conscious, subconscious, maybe it's just
I reckon there's probably
yeah,
also something with, like we said the other day, you don't always value something that you have for free, and obviously when you're paying someone to be on your team, they're
yeah,
not free. Becomes a point where they're just on the payroll. They're another line
yeah.
on the
You become
payroll.
a
Whereas,
commodity. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
Whereas when you're an influencer, when you're a freelancer or a consultant or an influencer, it's the same thing applies. And you
yeah,
that invoice is like landing in someone's inbox. They're like, oh shit, we just got a 10 grand invoice. We got to make sure that we're like making the most
yeah, yeah,
out of this
yeah.
person. So I think that applies as well.
For sure, for sure. There was something I wanted to add to this, but I forgot. But it's a very interesting topic, like the whole um, getting the buy-in as the company grows and things like that. Like it's it's very tricky to navigate. And in your post from yesterday, it sounded like I was joking, because I just said, like, what would you do? I think your question. So your question was like, how, like, what would happen if like you wouldn't get buy-in, basically, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what would you do if anything you want to try doesn't get
It's
through?
blocked. Mm-hmm.
I said, I quit. ... And that's long story short, what I did like a couple of times in the companies I work with. It comes at times where I think other people are needed in organization, different type of profiles.
Yeah.
And if you're 0 to 1 or 1 to 10 or 1 to 100 kind of guy, basically the beginning, like from seed to Series A, maybe depending on the company, could be a Series B, sometimes Series C, but that's different from after.
Yeah.
After this, could be after Series B, it could be after Series C or whatever. The later rounds, it's different people coming in. It's a different boat. It's a much bigger boat, and it's other things to navigate, and sometimes prepare for an exit. When a company gets to that stage, it's good. That means it's been successful. It also means that eventually there's either an IPO or something happening, or a merger, someone's a sale event, whatever. And that requires maybe being less scrappy, less last minute decision, or like being creative with it, and more like planning in advance, cutting costs, efficiencies, attribution, uplifts, tests,
All of those buzzwords.
all of those things that gives me nightmares.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah,
But
no,
then
so
sometimes
yeah,
it's just that it's not right for you. If you feel like
yeah,
you're bashing your head against the wall, you can't do what you do. You're not growing. Like you need to. I feel like you always need to be growing, whether you're in a consulting engagement or whether you're in just regular employment. If you feel like there's there's always a period where like you're bashing your head against the wall, or stuff isn't stuff isn't working, but like for you it's not working in the company, there comes a point where it's like, you know, we've both been in our careers long enough to know it gets to that point, and it's like it doesn't normally get better from that. So it's time to just move on for what's good for you.
Exactly. There's also a human, the human aspect of it. Like if your organization, meaning, you know, your manager or the CEO, like whoever's above you in a startup, and it's usually pretty lean, so like there's not that many layers. If from the very beginning none of your decisions are coming through as a growth a manager, growth lead, head of growth, or even like, you know, head of marketing, it's really hard to build a relationship with that person if every time you have a discussion with that person, you're challenging their views and
exactly.
vice versa. Like but it's also really hard to get the true feel of what it's going to be before you join. Because the same way someone will embellish maybe what they've done in the past to get hired, someone who's trying to hire you is also gonna hide the
fact that they want to be signing off every single line of copy that goes into
that, you know, that Instagram post that's gonna come out, like it's not the exact, like the logo is not exactly up and to the right, like at the pixel.
Yeah, and I think when you're in that situation, it's just anxiety. Like everything you're doing, I don't think you can be truly, you can't truly experiment. You can't truly move the needle or push things forward if everything you do, you're like, oh shit, like has he seen it yet? Has it been delivered to their feed yet? They're going to be stressed about it. That's not a good place to be.
All you can do is ask before you join, and you can try and judge if the answer is genuine. And I think the deeper the question you ask, like in terms of how much testing will you be able to do, in which channels, what they think, what that person thinks should be done. It's a good question to ask, you know, so they can just tell you before you come, like, oh, I really want us to do X, Y, and Z. If you don't want to do these things, you already know that if they want to do SEO and affiliates, and you think they should do TikTok and launch a podcast, maybe don't join. You know, like it's not gonna be a pleasant journey. Doesn't mean like all of these things are like it, and it's regardless of it's a good or bad idea. You know, it's just like if you don't align from asking those questions, maybe it's a good sign.
I agree.
But even then, I've had in the past, like not now, so I'm very happy where I am right now. But I've had moments a few years ago where, like, sometimes a person would, you know, just lie. they would just like tell you what you want to hear, or because you already said what you wanted to do, they just repeat what you just said back to you. But it's not exactly what they wanted. I had that before when I was doing a bit of freelancing. So even as a freelancer, but the good thing is when you're not an employee, it's really easy to come out of it. You know, if you see the relationship not working that well, it's easy to move on and try and help someone else instead.
Yeah, I think it's easier to be blunt as well, right? It's easier to be, depends on what your personality is like. If you're the kind of person that finds it easy to just have a difficult conversation with your boss, then that's cool. But sometimes you can be on too far on that end of the spectrum, and there's always the point where you have to be balancing, like, I don't want to piss this person off, but I need to tell them the truth. And when you're an employee, it becomes even more difficult because you're like, oh, you know, if I push them too much, then my job's on the line. But when you're a consultant or a freelancer, you don't really care so much. If you're doing your job right and you've got like lots of different gigs and you're not just relying on one. But that's, again, and I think people value honesty, right? And I think sometimes in full-time employment, it is very difficult to be brutally honest with your manager, especially if your manager is the CEO.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think Jake might arrive any moment now, so
okay, cool.
I'll start a story. We'll see how far I can do. A good example of this is often with paid advertising, like paid marketing. is often, in my opinion, the thing that comes up as like being either what the CEO wants or the thing that they don't believe in.
Mm-hmm.
And you either, so when they don't believe in it and you think they should do it, because I've had discussions with people where they're just like, we're growing organically, it's going very well, but like I'll never do paid advertising because we're not like that. I don't want to give my money to Google and Facebook and stuff. So like when the discussion started, I'm like, yeah, you don't know what you're talking about. Like if you're already doing well, like you should do paid, because that means you probably like you could just put fuel to the fire if you do it well. Like I don't know why, like some people, some founders, CEOs, they've got this like thing against it. Doesn't mean you have to like, if you do it well, doesn't mean you have to do like spend all your money in it. But if you have like another channel that works really well, like a growth loop or SEO or whatever it is, or organic content, you've got like successful like YouTube channel or whatever, like having paid on top of that, it will just accelerate things. But it's often the thing that comes up. It's that was exactly a discussion I had when I interviewed for Depop in 2018. The meeting with the CEO, Maria, at the time, she literally just said like we've got 4 or 5 million users already. It's all been mostly organic through the marketplace, buyers and sellers. We kind of low-key tried paid advertising, but like very, very small budget. I don't believe in it, but we're opening this role, and so that's the challenge. Like convince me that it's gonna work. And I was like literally just rubbing my hands together, because I knew already, like before even I joined, I was like, I'm gonna kill it because it's like the product, people love it, and they're not doing any ads anywhere. So and it worked. Like literally we went from 0 or like 5K spend a month to 500,000 a month in like 5 months. And literally 3 months later, after that interview, when I got the job, 3 or 4 months later, I was sitting down every week with her, and she was like, how much more can we spend? How much more can we spend? Like it became like an addiction.
Yeah, that's a nice place to be. That is a nice place to be.
That's probably the exception of everything we said, where the discussion didn't align at the interview, but I had a better conviction than her that it would work. So I just went for it. 5 minutes later. I love that voice. Yeah. I love that voice.
Working now?
Hey,
there we go.
How are you guys?
All good, and you?
Good.
You in Barcelona?
Yeah, in Barcelona.
Oh, nice.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Where are you from originally? Not Barcelona, I take it.
Not Barcelona. From town near Bath, southwest.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah. But I left like almost 10 years ago because the weather kind of sucked. Yeah.
We did the opposite. I moved to the UK about 12 years ago, and I'm from south of France, like actually 2 hours from Barcelona. So I did the opposite move. The weather was too good for me, so I had to move away from it. Yeah.
Too good.
I'm TBD. Where am I going to move to? I don't know. Probably nowhere.
It's tricky.
It's tricky.
Because if you want to work like a good tech scene, I guess London was the place. But now things have changed.
Yeah, exactly.
I stumbled upon some tech brands here. I guess we can discuss.
Yeah.
But
Tell us a little bit about you.
Who am I? Wow. So it's kind of a big question. For like a nerd, I guess you call me like a nerd. Like I got into marketing because I nerded out building websites when I was like younger.
What kind of websites?
My first, I was learning to program PHP back in maybe 2008 or something, and my first website was like an image uploader. I was like trying to do something. So you could like upload like an image to like the internet, and that was pretty cool.
That's nice. So an actual utility website, not just like a picture of your face.
No, not that one. Maybe the previous ones were like that, where I was like learning HTML, CSS, and then I moved on to, hey, how can I do something cooler than just like HTML, CSS? How can I make it do some things? And I started to learn PHP.
Yeah.
Is this what you tell us, that you then, you sold that image uploading website for 10 mil?
Did I sell that one? No, I built another one when I was like, I built a website where you could you could post like an advert to like learn Spanish, and if you learn English, you can kind of exchange languages.
Okay.
And I sold that for $120, and $120 when you're like
it's a lot.
15,
That's 120 mil basically.
Yeah, 120K.
Yeah.
So I sold that one, and and I thought, hey, why don't I make another website and keep doing the same thing? So I said, why don't I make one for French, where you can learn French? And so I was decided, my plan was to do many languages and make a lot of money.
Yeah.
But that website I ended up keeping, and now like it's something else. But yeah, that's kind of how it began.
Very nice.
Yeah, that's good.
And that's how you got the bug of marketing. Is it that you wanted to get these in front of people, or?
Yeah, exactly. It was, how do I get what I made in front of people? Like, I guess I realized I'm like a creator at heart versus a marketer, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I was searching how to get people onto your app, like your web app. So I came across like SEO, PPC, or Google AdWords, as it was called back then.
Yeah.
And I got into Google Ad. I wasn't meant to do Google Ads because you had to be like 18 or something, but I was 16. But I found a Google AdWords voucher on eBay for £50 because you got them free in like magazines.
Yeah.
And I bidded on it, and I got it for 99p.
That's a great story.
Sniper bid.
You turned that 99p
and that's how I got into Google AdWords, because I was 16 and got a £50 AdWords voucher. I probably blew it on crap because I didn't know what I was doing. But that's kind of how I got into Google Ads, and I tried to self-taught SEO, trying to learn all these different things. But yeah, that's kind of how it began.
Nice. And then how did you transition to like your first job, and where did you work? Because we want to get into one of the ones that I think are going to be very interesting for the people out there, Typeform. But like, how did you get to where you are now after this?
I'll tell you pre-Typeform, then we can move on to like Typeform.
Yeah.
So basically, before I went to university, I decided to do like a gap year. And I said, hey, I want to live in Spain for a year and take a break from all of this book reading and studying. So I deferred university basically for like 1 year. And I want to live in Spain, so I thought, hey, I'll probably become an English teacher because that's what an English guy's gonna do in Spain. So I did like a course, like a weekend course. I teach English. I sent my CV out to all like these language schools. Then I arrived in Spain. I went to like an interview, but then they realized I can program and I can do marketing. So we're like, hey, instead of teaching English, why don't you come and help us market and program this like English course that we're developing?
That's cool.
In our school. So I didn't teach a class of English. I ended up programming and marketing their course, and that was back in 2010 when it was the big boom of these like websites like Groupon and similar. And we ran across a site like Groupon but in Spain, and I approached them, and we sold like 2,700 courses in 24 hours.
Wow.
But we thought it was a scam, because like, how can you sell so much in 24 hours? So we got on a train to Madrid to try and find them in their office, and they wouldn't respond to us. We thought, this is definitely a scam. We can't find them. We don't know where they are. Yeah. But at the last moment, they told us where they were in Madrid, and when we went to meet them in Madrid, and it was true, and they did pay us. So we started doing like these Groupon things. We made clones because you couldn't put an offer on other Groupon type websites because you had like an exclusivity agreement.
Oh, right, yeah.
So we cloned the course, changed the branding and the name. Maybe the content was the same, but we're able to kind of make our own clones and competitors. I mean, all these different like Groupon type websites, and make a ton of money.
Oh, wow,
so that was like a weird, interesting marketing, like I guess, growth hack at the time.
Yeah, that's great.
Until the Groupon type sites died, because we don't really exist anymore.
No, yeah.
That was a big thing back then.
That's very cool. And then and then from there to Typeform was, because I guess it was 2015 you joined Typeform, right? So there must have been super early days for that.
Yeah. So in my last year of university, I was in my lectures just applying for jobs. I wasn't really listening, and I put on LinkedIn as a joke, hey, I'm looking for a job. Does anyone know anyone? I didn't think anything was going to happen. And like a CMO replied saying, hey, I know someone looking for someone talented. And they made an introduction to one of the co-founders of Typeform from that like LinkedIn post that I made as like a joke. And this person who made the introduction was the person I met in Madrid in 2010 who worked for one of the Groupon competitor websites.
Wow, look at that. That's how life works.
It's crazy.
Wow.
Crazy. And so then, I spoke to like co-founder at Typeform, spoke about like, because the website I was developing, I didn't sell that French website, became like a general language website. I made it into like a subscription type platform. So I had my own experience with and also the English course I worked for on like subscriptions.
Yeah.
Like I knew like the lingo, like MRR and churn and what are these things, like email marketing and campaigns and these things. So I kind of had that knowledge. And that was interesting for Typeform because there were like 15 people.
Wow. And
super tiny.
And that when you had that introduction, did you think like a survey website, but no one's going to give a shit about this?
Well, I literally thought this was a shit form website. I'm going to join for 6 months and I'm going to leave and do something else because this sounds super boring. Why would you want to do form? No joke.
I can imagine anything that is kind of obvious today when it started you can imagine was regarded like this, like you don't know until if it's realized in hindsight. It's a beautiful thing.
What do you think is the magic with, because it's true, right? It is at its core, it's quite a boring product like SurveyMonkey, and there's I've used SurveyMonkey for years, probably since I started using Typeform, but they're just doing the same thing. What do you think it was about Typeform that suddenly like made it just explode and everyone loved it? Do you think it just was that focus on like the interesting user experience, or was that different back in 2015?
So I think it's the combination of not just the user experience, but a lot of people use Typeform to like MVP their products or like MVP their business. So I think that's the emotional connection that they got to using Typeform, that they kind of started their business, they proved their concept using Typeform, and that created like a type of like connection, like emotionally. Versus, hey, I just collected something. No, I MVP'd my whole business idea. I got it out there. I kind of launched it. I think that's the thing about Typeform versus. It looks cool.
Was the kind of growth mechanisms of like made I don't know what it said exactly, like powered by Typeform, like people receiving the surveys and them becoming customers and stuff, was that thought about from the very beginning, or that came after like testing experiments and things like that?
I think it just kind of happened by chance. I don't think the viral loop was planned in, but then obviously it was exploited, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Or improved. Like I joined, and then 2 weeks later we were celebrating champagne. Hey, we got 1 million ARR, and then it got pretty fast afterwards. One big thing that was done in like my second week was they added like what they call a thank you screen to the end of a Typeform. So instead of just having like the branding at the bottom, the last screen would say, hey, create your own Typeform. And that's where you saw the big uptick in the graph, and it started to kind of accelerate even faster, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Were you measuring it at the time? You said it sounds like it went very fast. Was there already like some attribution in place to like measure like your K factor and like how many users were bringing other users, etc., or not really?
It's what we tried to measure it, and what I was working on, I guess, in the early days when I joined Typeform was how can we optimize the viral loop. So we kind of mapped out all the different stages from you see a Typeform and then you want to click on a Typeform, like we did like A/B testing on like the text on the Typeform, and then the landing page we land on after Typeform. But how can get more people to sign up to Typeform, make a Typeform, distribute the Typeform. So we mapped out the whole like cycle of the loop, and all of the growth, like product growth projects, were aimed at increasing the velocity and the conversion rates between each stage. So I was using a tool called, it wasn't Hotjar, I think it's called, can't remember the name, but some kind of tool where I could watch like screen recordings of people. This was 2015, I guess it was kind of early for that. It was like a new cool thing that no one had heard of.
Yeah.
And just watching what people were doing and how they were like getting stuck in the Typeform creation process, and I was kind of watching all of these videos every day, putting together like recommendations, ideas. How can we improve like the template gallery so people can get started faster and understand what Typeform is? So I kind of spend all my time doing these types of things.
Nice. Do you know the proportion of growth that were coming from the velocity of those loops, the user using the surveys and bringing new people? Do you know roughly in proportion?
So we decided to cookie people pre-GDPR, and we found like 30% of people who landed like through direct traffic had already seen a Typeform, if that makes sense, or 30% who came from brand. It's probably more because you have like cross device and a cookie isn't going to transfer onto your phone. Just probably a lot higher.
Yeah.
And 70% of customers were from direct and branded organic.
Wow. Interesting. Wow,
so probably a lot, you know. I couldn't beat the viral loop. When I started doing like my linear channels, whatever you want to call them, like SEO, PPC, I couldn't beat the virality.
No.
I was feeding it.
How did you? Basically, you're feeding the loop. Yeah. And was it something that was difficult to explain or to put in place, like the more linear channels, or was it pretty understood by the co-founders and yourself that you have this really strong sticky product that brings a shit ton of users, that now you can do these other channels, and there was like a very easy understanding, like what was the transition to adding more channels, I guess?
I mean, the understanding of use cases was pretty clear in templates. The understanding of how to execute the channel, like there wasn't even like a footer on the website, and I had to build a business case out of footer to the website so we can add some like links in the footer. Or teams were building all like these template pages, but they were floating around in like space and they weren't linked from anywhere. So like the actual technical side of SEO, I guess, or like the internal linking and the whole architecture of the website didn't exist. But the idea that we can create templates and people have these use cases in mind or jobs to be done or whatever you want to call it, that existed, like contact forms and all these different things. We made a whole prioritization matrix on templates, concepts on like, is it like a recurrent use case, like a one-off use case? Is it a acquisition use case or retention use case? If that makes sense, depending on like search volumes, or like it's more people looking for, I don't know, a contact form than a I don't know, like some templates, there's like lots of search volume, others there's less search volume. But the bigger search volume, sometimes you have higher churn rates. Free survey templates versus lead generation form. There's more searching for free surveys than lead generation form.
Or like user research surveys, or those kind of like maybe more niche ones that maybe are more sticky but less volume.
And then we also were tracking like what type of use cases would people embed on their website, or which ones would they more likely send up to their user base, because that would create more virality. So there's lots of different variables that you could use to kind of prioritize templates.
Yeah, it's nice. It seems like a pretty fairly sophisticated upfront consideration for tracking, like what were you going to track? You were going to track number of embeds for this form, for instance, not just number of people that like started using it, for instance, to really understand that full funnel. So the crux of because I never necessarily considered that a big growth channel for Typeform would be SEO, but now you're talking about it, makes complete sense. Like any tool where you're using it to build functionality effectively for you, you can scale that, horizontally, massively, loads of different areas. So it was just a case of like, let's brainstorm 500 different ideas for a form, build them, what do people use, and then just iterate on that. Is that kind of how it worked?
Yeah, exactly. We had like prioritization matrix, and like, is this good for acquisition, but is it also good for understanding the product, activation, and then retention, and then you get a higher score if it ticks all of the boxes, if that makes sense. Because if it wouldn't retain people but acquire people, we tried to hit all the boxes between marketing and customer success teams, because there were some templates they wanted, but we didn't want to make because we weren't going to acquire anyone from them, if that makes sense. And Another cool thing we did is we built in a link building loop. So big thing in SEO is getting links, right?
Yeah.
So what we would do is when you work to copy like the code to embed on your website, outside the iframe there was a link back to the one of like the template pages.
Right.
So if you named your type form contact form whatever, it would see the word contact form in the name, and it would customize the link outside the iframe to say contact form powered by Typeform.
Oh, wow,
Word
cool.
contact form would link to the contact form template page. And I was measuring on like SEO tools, all of the times people were like embedding and leaving the link on, and I was looking at the correlation between signups and like embeds and link building loops and powering SEO, so we can rank for all of these different terms. And it was interesting because we had the link building growth loop for the use cases people would embed, and the use cases people don't embed, like NPS survey. You don't want to put that on your website.
Right.
That's where you have to do manual outreach for link building. So you could split like the different link building tactics depending on the type of use case, if that makes sense.
Yeah, interesting. So there was a whole manual outreach part for that classic build relationship for your links, as well as relying on the automated part.
Depending on the probability of it being embedded or not.
Right. Yeah.
Contact form you're going to embed. NPS survey, you're not going to embed that on your website. So we kind of prioritize it that way for
That's very cool.
better efforts and rewards.
Wow,
That's
amazing.
interesting.
How big did you scale SEO at this peak?
So SEO scaled it until we got to 1,000 signups a day. I think like about 700 customers a month or something like that.
Wow.
So I got it to like a 30 from non-branded, right? Forget the homepage, because you can cheat and say, hey, I got all of these apps on the homepage because I typed in Typeform. But no, I didn't achieve that. Maybe a little bit because you didn't have like super accurate attribution, but from non-branded SEO, it was 30,000 a month. That's where I got it to, from like zero.
Wow. That's in revenue.
In revenue, it's like 700 customers a month.
Right. Yeah. Wow.
30,000 signups, something like this.
And how did that compare to, how did that compare to a paid channel, for example? Was it that, because it seems like you nailed that and it would be slightly more difficult to find the right customer through something like an ad on Instagram?
So when I was at Typeform, we didn't crack like the whole paid social channels. And that's down to attribution. Like, people's understanding of attribution is different. I think 5-6 years ago, people were very obsessed with like channel attribution and having it perfectly done in like a spreadsheet. Like, hey, if your attribution software says this, then that is the ROI and you can't do anything else. It was super strict. I think nowadays people are more open to actually maybe what you see isn't really the truth, and there's other things happening, and you can change how you think about attribution. So we couldn't, because people are seeing the ad on Facebook or Instagram, they're not clicking, they're looking for Typeform, but there wasn't a mechanism in place to understand that. There wasn't like a survey when you signed up, said, hey, how did you hear about Typeform? And if we said Facebook, we could attribute that back to Facebook ads. We couldn't do that, so we couldn't prove it was working.
And even then, it's more like an indirect, recollection of people's memories, which is not always accurate when you do
it's tricky.
It's
you
tricky.
Start looking at the number of people that chose the first option on that form just to get rid of it. It's like 90%.
You have to randomize the answer so you don't have that bias.
Otherwise, someone internally is gonna want to sound smart and is gonna say it in the meeting. It's like, who was the first
99% of people came from paid because it's the first option.
Yeah, of course. But I've spoken to some, like another SaaS brand, and like a year ago, and they said, for example, Facebook reported 4 customers, the attribution survey reported 20. If they went off what Facebook said, they will turn off Facebook ads. Now they leave them on because they have the different view. So the goal is to do like a blended marketing ROI. And on a channel basis, you can kind of you don't have to be super strict.
Exactly. But it is that's tricky because it needs to come from the top. I mean, it needs to be set up. Those guidelines needs to be like very clear from the very beginning that we got to look at it on a blended basis. If the blended goes in the right direction, that means the mix somehow is working, and then you can test based on those assumptions. But it's not easy. Maybe I was gonna say, maybe you didn't maybe you didn't need also to crack paid if, like look how big Typeform grew and where it is now.
Yeah, I know.
With like, with the thing with SEO, if you have the product like Typeform, it's pretty unique, like something that drives so much growth, and you manage to crack SEO. I mean, takes time, but once you have those two things, that's pretty powerful.
Yeah, I mean, paid search, we kind of cracked.
Yeah.
The strategy in paid search was to
Yeah.
break even,
Yeah.
and then from other channels, make your 3-to-1. Like back then it was 3-to-1 CAC lifetime value. Nowadays it's payback. It's changed. But before it was get to your 3-to-1 overall blended, and then in paid it'd be like 1-to-1. Paid search went from spending like €0 to like 300,000 a month, and it was getting roughly the same amount of customers and sites as like SEO, but obviously not for 300k in SEO.
No.
Big difference.
Yes,
It was acceptable.
Yeah.
But we got zero resource. Like in SEO, no one wants to give any resources to SEO because supposedly it's the free channel.
Yeah, exactly, and then really.
But in paid ads, cool, spend $500,000. We don't care. It's crazy.
Yes.
It's dumb. It's really dumb,
It is, and
It's
also
dumb,
it's like, even if you do consider it as the free channel, it's like you might have a team of 20 people that are all salaried on that free channel that are spending all of their time doing that, but nobody sits down and works out what the actual the ROI of if it's positive or negative. And it's much easier to do.
Crazy world we live in.
It is a
crazy world.
It's mad.
But to make paid search work, we had to. So because Typeform's freemium, not every customer comes in. They're not all going to convert in month one.
No.
If that makes sense. Like we did the analysis, and 60% come in. If you look at a cohort of like 12 months, 60% convert in month one, and then the other 40% convert over the next 11 months, right? But then the problem is the finance team say, hey, what did you spend last month and what did you get?
Yeah.
What are you going to say? Well, we don't know because we have to wait a whole year.
Yeah.
So we built like a prediction model where we knew we had like a multiplier to month one customers to predict 12-month customers.
Yeah.
And we said, this is our predicted ROI because of all this data we have on like a 12-month cohort, because we had 12 months of data. And then we kind of used that as what was the predicted ROI to spend last month, and that allowed us to scale faster, because you don't want to wait 12 months to keep adding up the numbers.
No.
That's
Yeah.
dumb. That's what a lot of people do.
Now this is really interesting. I think I said it in a previous episode, but one of my biggest career regret was not to manage to get resources to do SEO at Depop. We smashed the paid acquisition, but the biggest by far was SEO. The biggest opportunity was SEO, because all those items and all those users that was using the app, there was a landing page attached to it, and you said something that was very similar to us. There was no linking between all its pages. There was already, when I joined, there was already like between 7 and 10 million unique pages auto-generated by the fact that people were just coming into the app, and there was nothing done to optimize that. So the biggest opportunity was in SEO, and I never got to get the full buy-in to actually move the needle on this. So we stick to other channels, but yeah, I always to this day I always think Depop could have been. It still did a great thing, but I think between, it could have been 10 times bigger. I'm sure.
I think that's the thing. When you come to talk about SEO, the first thing that people might think is, oh, we're going to have to start writing content, or build, but there's all these layers of SEO.
It's effort.
Yeah, exactly, but there's all these layers of SEO, exactly like in both of you guys' cases, where you have all these pages that are in existence that people are generating. Just capitalize on them, and then you've got this enormous amount of
because you had a huge UGC play.
Yeah, but that's what's interesting. So
weren't able to leverage.
Exactly. Even with that biggest regret, a company like Depop still managed to sell to Etsy as a unicorn and make a shit ton of money. So it's like all of these things that we always talk about. What's interesting is like there's not one path. You can get to very big numbers and being very successful big companies with many different ways, and you usually have to crack one or two channel very, very well. sometimes the one that you crack is not necessarily the ones that you wanted to crack. In my case, I wish we leaned way more into SEO. I think it would have made a massive difference to the business, to the numbers, to the CAC and the payback periods and all of that stuff, because paid eventually gets very expensive. And then we go into all the attribution discussion that you also mentioned, like trying to like weight it and predict it 12 months in advance, 18 months in advance, and then that's how I lost my air, basically. That's why I'm bold.
Okay.
Yeah,
I guess
nobody ever wants to go. No one from the finance team in 6 months' time says, "Oh, can we go back 6 months and now tell me how much revenue we made in January last year?" It's just always
they're annoying,
what
these finance people.
It is.
Yeah.
No, it's really annoying, because the faster you want to grow, the worse it looks, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
because it takes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you I know you you probably had to do this, but is there any things that you've done at Typeform, but maybe other places, to help get a decision done, especially on a decision like SEO, like a more long-term play like SEO? Like, what do you have any tips or insights on like getting buy-ins to make a decision like that?
I mean, it sounds obvious, but get the revenue figures, get access to the revenue numbers. Like, I'm trying to remember how I got access. Typeform, I got access to like the data warehouse myself. No one else had access, but I managed to convince someone to give me like a login.
Yeah.
I didn't hack it. I hacked my relationships to get my like login.
Yeah.
And I connected it through coffees. Through. And then I had some kind of Google Sheets plugin or something that connected like a mice, to the Redshift database. And I was running because I knew like SQL, I could do my own queries, so by knowing do this, I could speak the language like these data people. So I think that's how I could build relationships too, because I could speak the language of data, SQL, and these things, and I managed to get access to the data warehouse. I knew how to build the query and get access to the data and segment by what I want to look at. By getting access to the revenue data, it allowed me to build the best business cases. If everyone in the room isn't speaking about revenue, but you are, who's going to win?
Yeah,
that's a very good tip. That's a very good tip.
Yeah.
So get the revenue data as fast as you can, wherever you are, and base your business cases on how can you increase actual revenue, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's a great
tip. How do you get past the challenge of all of this is hypothetical kind of thing, you're making a model that is based on revenue. Is there anything else that you do when you're in those rooms, in those meetings, to actually get the decision done? Is there do you have a strategy for that?
I mean, if you already tried something, do something and ask for forgiveness to get some kind of tangible result. Just don't tell anyone you're launching a landing page. Just go and do it and say, hey, I launched this. It got a result. No, for real.
Yeah.
Typeform said our strategy is now lead generation, and I said, okay, cool. I'm going to continue with my templates. That's what I did. I had this idea, and I thought, because we had this content team, but they were super picky, blocking us. So I found some freelance writer. I didn't tell them. We started uploading stuff to Typeform's website. I asked for forgiveness and not for permission, and that allowed me to get the data to show something interesting to build my business cases.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
It does.
So just doing things.
It does, but it's so interesting, because that's what we're talking about before you joined. It's not just companies needs to be scrappy and try things and have a growth mindset. It's within the company, you had to yourself hack the company to actually get stuff done.
It's crazy.
It's that's sometimes I'm just fuck that. If you have to do all of these things internally to get stuff done, it's how much is this worth it? I hope you had shares. I hope I hope you did well from Typeform, because it's it takes such a special kind of skill set. Not everyone is like that. I think people you, it's really rare Like, if you just follow what you've been told within a company, and especially when you're in a growth function or marketing function, sometimes it applies to that if you separate them, but I think it kind of applies to both. You'll never get to like the stuff that you've done, like literally the success that you had, and the success that you had, you created for Typeform was all based on you like just thinking outside the box and going out of your way.
Yeah. And then in order to be a rebel, right, you have to be passionate about what if it's not your product or your business. It takes a special kind of person to give a shit enough to just feel
passionate.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I guess what I was saying before is don't come with like a business case, and it's all hypothetical. Come and say, hey, I tried something, it worked, and here's what else it could be, if that makes sense. So always come with some tangible result plus your vision. Don't just come with your spreadsheet.
No, that's true. Yeah, it does make complete sense. I love that.
That's my advice for that.
That's sure.
And ask for forgiveness.
I always for me it applied to paid marketing on social. Like I would just try shit, never tell that something's live. I would always just tell if it's working. We're like, look, our cost of acquisition is like reduced by 3x or whatever. So this creative is working. It's like, but we didn't approve it. It's like, who cares now? It's live and it's the best one.
Oh yeah, my best advice to do things is call them an experiment.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then you can do anything you want to do. You go, oh, this is just an experiment, or that ad is an experiment. This landing page, it's all an experiment. Don't worry, we'll turn it off if it doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's how you can get buy-in super easily, because people think things are permanent, or it's gonna be a permanent feature of the website or strategy or whatever you're doing. Yeah. So just call it an experiment, and people will start saying yes more often.
Exactly. What do you mean you spent $100,000 of it rather than £1,000? Yeah, but now we know that doesn't work. Oh shit! Yeah, okay, it's cool. Now we're never going to make that mistake again.
An extreme example.
Extreme.
To just do things, or for example, in people like a Typeform, they don't want to compete like a bit on competitor terms, like SurveyMonkey alternatives and these things. You could waste months and months in discussions and building business cases, or you could accidentally launch the ad tomorrow and showcase some interesting result.
Yeah, I love that.
I go, look, I launched it. I spent not 100k, but maybe £1,000. Yeah. I got signups. Someone became a customer. Because one thing I did at Typeform is I launched some ads in Spanish. The website was in Spanish, but the product was in Spanish because Typeform was founded in Spain. And I managed to get a customer in 24 hours launching some ads in Spanish. And I just did it. And then based off the back of that, I kickstarted a project to localize the whole website into Spanish and launch SEO in Spanish. And now we're building like a sales team in Spanish. But that's just because I was a rebel and did some paid search ads and made a landing page in Spanish one day.
There you go. It's the perfect business case. Jake, I want to move on a bit because I'm really interested in what you're doing now at Skale. So just to read basically your headline on the site, SEO revenue engines for SaaS brands. And that is that instantly grabs my attention. Can you give us like an overview as to what you guys do there?
Okay, definitely. So I co-founded Skale 4 years ago, and basically started off solving the pain of link building for SaaS brands. Because in Typeform, I tried different ways to do link building. Like I got like an intern, he got bored and said, I don't want to do this link building thing anymore. I want to do what the other SEO guys do and do other stuff. Tried to work with an agency, but they want to do like more digital PR stuff. But I'd already proven that if you can get links to specific pages, that's how you rank them. So why would I want to launch some digital PR campaign to get links to some random creative page, right? And a lot of the link building services out there were pretty spammy or weird. They weren't aligned with what SaaS brands were looking for. So I decided, why don't I build a service that solved this pain and help SaaS brands with the link building. So we launched that and it was super successful. And then people started asking, hey, can you help us with all of our SEO? So I said, like, I know how to do this. I did it at Typeform. I've done it with other brands. So why don't we help them with all of their SEO? And the big kind of thing we decided to do was to focus on actual revenue metrics and not vanity metrics. Like most SEO people and agencies, even like people, like if you ask a PPC marketer what results did you get last week, they'd say, hey, I got CPA, CPLs, or whatever. If you ask an SEO person, they go, I got in position 5 for this keyword. So the difference already is some people, SEOs aren't good at putting a revenue figure. they could say, hey, it's like a black box. We don't really know. We can't really figure it out, you know, but you can. So I decided to angle SEO around revenue generation, building like different growth models around like SEO and doing it more like a mathematical approach where you know the inputs and you can get to your desired outputs. So, you know, if I create, I don't know, 30 pages, you can anticipate what are the conversion rates of all of these different pages depending on where they are in like the funnel. What would the conversion rate be to like sign up to paying? How many links do you need to build for each page? And then so then you know the effort and then the reward, if that makes sense. So we decided to tackle SEO in this way. That's the big change we've made.
Interesting. And so the link building side of what you guys do, how do you? It might be your secret, I don't know, but like, how do you achieve that? Or how would you suggest to someone who's like, I know I need to build links? Is it just the manual like?
It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's manual. It's a lot of manual work to get really like quality links. You know, so the tactic we use is creating content for really good websites. You know, like reach out to websites saying, hey, like we've got a team of really great writers. We can create content for your website. And because a lot of people's budgets got slashed, they want free content, really good content that we can make. But then the value exchange is we're going to add a link into that content to one of our SaaS brands that we work with.
Oh, interesting.
It's not going to be spammy, so you're going to be contextual. It's not going to be like, hey, like a super commercial ad. It might be, I don't know, project management tool or whatever. And then we publish that. We have a team of writers who create the content and we publish the content on those websites. So it's a huge operation. We have like dozens of writers, dozens of people doing outreach and link building, thousands of links per month, hundreds per month, thousands in like the lifetime. Maybe we're definitely hundreds per month. It's like a huge operation.
Yeah.
But no one wants to join a SaaS company and do link building.
No.
You guys probably never done link building, you know, so because it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's a big pain.
Yeah.
And we can take it off your shoulders. And a lot of people have had a bad experience with link building agencies where they either got crappy links or when they said, or the link building agency would say, here's the spreadsheet of links we've got for you. Now you go and figure out if they did anything. But what we do is we do the data crunching behind it, right? So we would look into, did these links actually increase MRR, decreasing ranking, signups, etc. And we'd kind of model all the data to establish where can we get the biggest impact with the lowest effort. Like this page needs 3 links, but it can increase signups by 200 per month. Let's go after this page and get like a quick win. Let's not bother go after this other page, which can get 2 signups for like 20 links. So we do all of this, but data crunching behind it as well.
That sounds like the tricky part. The first part is just manual, and then the data crunching sounds like the hard bit.
So you have to, but when you work in house, as you probably know, like to get budgets, like I need to find like the writers, get budget for the writers. I need to do the outreach to websites. I need a tool for this. Like, it's a lot of work.
Would you have you considered doing that for consumer brands too, or does it not work like that?
I mean, we're focusing on like business to business, kind of like niches right now. Like I don't have much background in consumer brands, to be honest. It's all in B2B, so it's kind of a hard question. Yeah. But
I'm just asking because I'm interested.
We can look into it. We can take a peek and you know what was interesting in Typeform was people didn't believe in link building. They thought it was fake. So I did like a test. We like got 5 links to one page and we got to number 1 and they're like, okay, this thing works. let's start investing in link building. You know, so I had to do some kind of test to prove that it works, you know. It kind of, I think you need to model the data and kind of weigh up the effort versus rewards. Because you know how much, if you contact like an agency, for example, and they say it's going to cost X per link, then you can build a spreadsheet and you go, if it's 5 links, 5 times whatever, that's the cost to rank the page. What am I going to get out of this page in 12 months, for example? And the 12-month value, what does that mean in terms of the investment? And you can kind of weigh up, does this make sense?
And when you talk about ranking a page, do you have, you know, you're obviously talking about on page 1 ideally, but are you aiming for position 1, 2, 3, or just anywhere on page 1 will have some kind of revenue impact in your experience?
Like top three positions, you know, like you exponentially get a lower click-through rate the further you go down. Position 1 average like 30%, it drops like 20%, 15%, and it goes
nothing
low pretty fast because of all of these paid search people putting all their ads on the top.
Yeah.
Fuck these
Even
guys.
further down. Yeah, those guys, so definitely aiming for like the top 3. I'm ranking for like super valuable keywords in SEO, and obviously it's an investment in the beginning that pays off in the long term.
I've got a question for this actually. I keep reading more and more about SEO ranking from like TikTok videos and like video content, but coming mostly for TikTok being ranked on Google organically for keywords, long-term keywords like phrases and stuff. Have you seen that coming up, and is that something that you think about or work on?
So haven't seen it in the world of like B2B SaaS brands with TikTok.
Yeah.
Seen like YouTube videos.
Yeah.
Like YouTube, yeah. So I think obviously there's a move to like video content people are consuming, and for younger generations, I guess.
Yeah.
Well,
you're young
like
too.
my sister.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like my sister who's like 23, like she doesn't even like, she'd be searching for things on Instagram or TikTok and looking at things. I'm like, what are you doing?
I know.
Or she's like booking up a holiday on her phone. Like, why are you doing that? I'm not on your laptop.
Yeah.
Like she doesn't even have a laptop.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
fun,
yeah,
isn't
yeah.
it?
Yeah, no,
I'm
it's
like,
true, yeah.
So I definitely think there's just going to be more channels that you need to be present on. That's the shift, but I think that's why in-house people, it's very hard to do that in-house, and you probably need to just work with different specialist or agencies to be able to do everything at once, because how can you get someone to do all of it?
That's true. And on the content side, I think that's why working with not just influencers but like creators, they don't have to have an audience, like people who know how to create content on some of these platforms like TikTok videos, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, like those kind of things. Like it's probably going to be a lot cheaper and a lot faster to just outsource and find the right freelancers to help you do that.
Yeah, it's a question of like owned, paid, and kind of like media. I guess from like the B2B SaaS perspective, what we're looking at is how can you tie in content creation with like account-based marketing. So how can you like reach out to like target accounts, like speak to them, and then take their insights and repurpose that into different types of content. And that's how you get like the experts into your content, and you can also generate demand through doing the ABM.
Oh yeah. That's the thing. Like I think we did talk about this a few episodes ago. It's like for B2B SaaS, you just interview your audience, your ideal customer. You do a podcast, basically like we're doing now. You get them on your podcast.
Like we're doing now,
yeah. We're doing that for marketers and growth practitioners. So it's the only difference that we don't sell you anything yet.
Okay. Not yet.
So,
but
yeah, it's probably the best. The best Trojan horse idea for
yeah, definitely. But the way SEO is moving is with like ChatGPT and stuff, you can churn out all of this content. You can optimize it like SEO optimization tools. How are you going to stand out? Like there's really only two ways. One is link building, and the other one is better content using experts and all creators.
Unique,
I guess more in the B2C
unique
space.
Voice.
Unique voice.
I know we're coming up against it time-wise, Jake, but I've got another question, because when I was looking through the case studies on Scale, I was drawn to the Maze one because we use Maze at Hex for product research and things like that. And what I found really interesting is results obviously great that you managed to achieve, but also I think you called out that it was just like a big impact from just 200 backlinks. And I know it's not easy to get to just 200 backlinks. But when you're talking about backlinks, you don't need to be talking about tens or hundreds of thousands to move the needle for a business.
No.
And
no, like definitely not.
Yeah, no, go on, carry on.
I was going to say, I mean, not every backlink is equal. If you get backlink on like a crappy website, it's not the same as like a good website. I think there's also the notion if you get a backlink on like a really super big, well-known website, Forbes or something, that's going to create more impact than a lower domain authority website, but it's not. The big trend is like topical authority, like an SEO. Like how can we be topically relevant? Like if you want to rank for, I don't know, project management tools, if you get a link from a project management website versus Forbes, obviously the project management website is going to pass more authority than the Forbes one, even though the project management website is the main rank, I don't know, 20, and the Forbes is like 90, you know? So you're looking at relevancy above everything else, and that's kind of how that's how Google's working, versus just the authority. So you can get less links. Like one other SaaS brand we worked with, we got above Canva in the search results with like way less links because we got good relevant links. So it's not a volume game, it's like a quality game. So you don't need thousands of links, if that makes sense. And you can build the model. You need to build the model, because if you blindly go building all these links, it's just a waste of effort. But if you build the model and you say, hey, this topic cluster, like these 5 topics pages need 20 links, you can make it work super well. So it's all in the data analysis.
Interesting. So, and with those links, it's my naivety coming in here, but so let's just say the maze example, 200 backlinks, would they not necessarily all going to the same page for the same keyword, or were they, you know, does it matter? Does it just
different pages?
Yeah. Okay. So it's just,
so say you have
site.
30 pages. Yeah, like links to the site on key pages. Like maybe you create like this like this model in a spreadsheet, like 30 pages. And you know, like one page might need 20, one page might need 3, one page might need like 5. The totality is say 200. But you're placing your bets, your links on your pages based on the analysis you did to get the maximum impact for the lowest amount of effort. So I think that's the key. And a lot of SEOs don't work in that way. They don't have the skills of paid marketers who are used to crunching data and using like revenue numbers and how do I invest this into these different channels. SEOs typically don't do this. That's what we're trying to help with.
Well, we obviously can't get your secrets on this podcast, but I would love to have like a private screen share, and you could talk me through like how you do that, because that's like blowing my mind. It's really that's like turning me on right now.
Okay.
Wow.
Are you getting hot? Are you getting hot, Jack?
Yeah, my face is getting red.
Yeah. Oh my god.
He's like drooling to know.
No, because it just, I mean, that sounds it's like to a level of SEO that I haven't really ever heard someone talking before, and it's like it's really cool.
It is
because it's funny. Really like one case study on the website, I said how this client reached a CPA of €1, and people are like, why are you speaking about CPAs in SEO? Are you crazy? It's like a paid thing.
Yeah, don't do that to us.
So I'm borrowing. I'm stealing the paid marketer's secrets and put them into SEO to make it more performance driven, versus because most SEOs do spray and pray. Like, here's some random stuff that we can do, and I cross my fingers and maybe it's gonna work. It's done. You don't need to work in that.
I've been in those meetings with SEO agencies where they were like, "Oh, great week last week. We got 30 new keywords from page 10 to page 3." And I was like,
"Oh my god!"
This moved up 2 positions. This moved down 4 positions. You're like,
I was like, "What is this?" So my first thing was like, "What does that even mean? Like, what are you telling me?" And it goes back to what you were saying. It's like, talk the right language. Talk about the revenue if you can. Like, if you can link it back to revenue and make, even if it's projections or based on benchmark. And it's I'm butchering what you're saying, but basically, if you do that, it will make a lot more sense. And I was like, why are you talking? And also I was like, why do I care about page 3? I want to be in top 3, page 1. That's it. Like, anything below that is, doesn't exist. Is a void.
A lot of SEO agencies are a scam, and I think they use this to like kind of scam people, to be honest. Or it's weird. It's like they, like a lot of SEO agencies use metrics like visibility or increase your online presence, which I really hate, and I ban these words at Skale. No one can say presence or visibility because I hate them. Like, it just makes zero sense. You know, we want to just revenue, maybe signups, maybe rankings, but definitely not visibility or definitely not that.
Yeah, makes sense.
All right. Well, on that note, that was awesome, Jake.
Thank you. It's great speaking to you guys.
It was awesome. It was one of those ones that goes by, it's like super quick. I feel like we could have just carried on for like another hour or so.
A few more days. A few more days.
Okay, we'll do.
Yeah, it was really good.
It's good speaking to you guys. Thank you.
Take care.
Take care.
Cheers, man.
Bye.
Bye.